Good morning and welcome to the Heart Standard, or good afternoon if you do listen to this in the afternoon, or good evening if you choose to listen to this in the evening. My name is Joe Skate. I am joined by my colleague James Kearney, and this is available on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. I'm guessing most people get it from Apple and Spotify. I'm not sure if anyone who listens via any other means. Before we get into discussing the return of Heart of Midlothian after the international break, i.e. getting back to proper business, just a wee bit of house admin, house cleaning, I don't know what the phrase is. The phrases has escaped me, but we won't have a briefing on Friday. Just I'm away for a couple of days, and James will be very, very busy on Friday with press stuff. So we will be back on Saturday with pre and post match shows from Tynecastle before and after the St Johnstone game in the Scottish Premiership. And that's what we're here to talk about, Heart of Midlothian against Craig Levein's St Johnstone. And we'll get on to speaking about Craig Levein shortly. But it is it's another big game. It's the start of a 9-game. I've written an article that will go out on the website tomorrow called it a 9-game sprint, because the nature of the Scottish Premiership with the increasingly pointless winter break is that you cram loads of games in before the break, and then you cram loads of games in after. So basically there's 2 5-week spells either side of the winter break where Hearts play 9 games, then 8 games in the league. So you're almost half a season into these two 5-week spells. So it is obviously going to be a big one for everyone. And this is Saturday's a perfect opportunity for Hearts to make it 3 wins in a row in the league and continue to look to put pressure on St Mirren, maybe get into third place.
No, definitely, yeah. I think that this is, I wouldn't go as far as say it's must win for Hearts, but it's certainly a very important one because, as we've spoken about before, you look at that fixture list that's coming up and there's a lot of quite big and quite difficult games in there. So I think it's important to try and get 3 points straight off the bat at the start of this run, particularly against St Johnstone, who, as I'm sure we're going to talk about, yes, okay, they've got Craig Levein in. I think we all know what we can expect in terms of how they'll set up and how the game will pan out on Saturday. But at the same time, they're still a struggling St Johnstone side who Hearts should be beaten, and certainly, again, if Hearts are wanting to finish third, these are the kind of games that you do need to win. These are ones where it's just, if you're at home against a team who's bottom end of the table fighting to scrapping for points here and there, those are just the games you have to pick up 3 points and try and kick on. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how St Mirren react as well. Obviously they had that 4-0 defeat fairly recently. I can't remember who it was to now.
At Dundee. So just before
Dundee it was. That's right, it was Dundee. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that. Obviously that's probably the biggest. It's probably the biggest doing they've had in quite some time, to be honest. Will that knock their confidence? Could we start to see them fritter away now? Maybe. I guess I'm
going to interject here, James, and say Hearts should not have to worry about St Mirren. They're rubbish. I don't think they're not. That's going to OTT. They're not rubbish. They're a good side, but I don't think they're good as. They're as good as last season, and I think they are perhaps maybe in a false position. Robinson's done a great job, and I'm definitely walking back my rubbish claims, because they're a very well organised side, and they've got.
They're third.
Yeah, I know. They are. They're a good side, and they're there for a reason. But I do think they are not as good as last season, where they've lost a few key players. I think they're weaker between the sticks. Zach Hemmings, who's goalkeeper, but not good as Trevor Carson. I think Joe Saunders and Declan Gallagher. The fact that both of those left was a blow, and Curtis Main as well. So I think you'll see them regress. But this isn't a St Mirren podcast. This is St Mirren briefing. This is Hearts, and it's looking ahead to St Johnstone game. And I wanted to touch on the aspect of must win. It's something I touch on in articles going out tomorrow. It's one that I think a lot of Hearts fans might not agree with the article in general, but it's kind of touched on the must win aspect, and I completely understand, and I've probably called it as well. but just like going from one game to another, which is must win, it's tiring. But I completely understand it within the context of what's coming up over these next few weeks. Is that there's a lot of really tough games, and you think this is the ideal opportunity to pick up 3 points. Got a really good record against St Johnstone recently. In terms of the starting lineup, Graham asks, do you think we'll stick with the same team that beat Motherwell? So we'll come on to that just now, because we have both written our predicted lineups ahead of it going out on Friday, and I've had a look at yours. I think we're in agreement, bar one possession. James, you have not gone for the same team as the one that beat Motherwell, have you? And explain why.
No, I've not. So it was quite similar. I went for the same back three of, Kent, Rose and Kingsley. I had Cochrane on the left, Forrest on the right, Shanklin and Boyce up top. And then I had Beningame at the 6, Lowry in the left, centre mid row, that kind of 10-y centre mid 10 thing. And then on the right I had George Grant though, right centre mid, which I'm assuming is probably where you've maybe deviated from me.
Yes.
Yeah, basically my thinking was, and this is something I've mentioned to someone I was speaking to on Twitter earlier in the week, was the fact that I think for this game in particular, when I think this could be quite similar to, for instance, the Livingston game at Tynecastle a few weeks ago, where St Johnstone are sitting very deep, but it's going to be an exercise and try to break them down. And I think that in that circumstance, I think just having Grant in that midfield as well as Lowry, just again adds that bit more creativity. It's a bit more. There's more players there who are more progressive. They're looking to get forward. They're more got a better chance of trying to break down a kind of stubborn defence. And I think for that reason, I think I could maybe see Grant coming into this one. I mean, earlier this week I wrote an article having a go, basically saying that yes, I think the midfield three should by and large be Beningame at 6, Delvin at right centre mid, Lowry at left, and that kind of centre mid number 10 role. And yet here we are, the first opportunity, and I'm suggesting actually no, drop Devlin and get Grant in instead. I mean, I know Devlin hasn't been playing recently, but I just think that extra little bit of creativity that he gives you is really important. The other thing as well, of course, is that Neuenhoff has been playing international football. I mean, he was playing for Australia under-23s last night against Saudi Arabia's under-23s. Obviously, there's a lot of travelling involved. Maybe he's. I think I would be tempted just to play Grant for this one. I think he gives you a bit more creativity, and I think he also gives more creativity than Neuenhoff as well. So, yeah, that's my thought process. I mean, who did you have in there then?
Yeah, so I went for that. I went for the same team that beat Motherwell. But when I saw yours, I was like, yeah, I totally get that, because I think Livingston was a really good barometer that you saw. Naismith make a very proactive change at half time by taking Devlin off and bringing on. It was Grant he brought on, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
to provide a bit more forward thinking or quality, like going forwards with being able to unlock defences. So I totally get that, and you make a really good point about Neuenhoff having been away with Australia. Like Vargas is coming back, Rolls has been away with Australia as well, but I'm not sure if that was that I don't know if that was a friendly, because I know they played friendlies in London recently. But yeah, there's a few Hearts players doing a lot of travelling, and I just went for the continuity, just because I thought the team played really well against Motherwell, and said against Motherwell and Livingston probably deserved. He played really well in the circumstances of the opposition we were against, but both performances merited a more handsome margin of victory.
No, definitely, yeah. I mean, they're both 1-goal wins, but I think when you go kind of when you look back at the games and watch them back or whatever, like, I mean, particularly the Livingston game, that was one-way traffic for 85 minutes or so, maybe even 88. In the last few minutes, Livingston really decided they wanted to try and score. Motherwell, again, like, they had obviously the shot that was handled on the line, which led to the penalty, and then the penalty itself. But apart from those two chances, which are obviously very connected, the Motherwell didn't do much either. So again, I can definitely see I can see why tempting with the same start 11 would be. I can see why sticking with the same starting 11 would be such a tempting option, just because it did work. And that first half against Motherwell was probably the best first half we've seen from Hearts since maybe the derby. I'd say, you know, it's one of the better opening 45 minutes of the season we've had. So yeah, no, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, so yeah, I just thought then it allows you that option that you go, right, if we do need a bit more creativity, you can bring Grant off, or if you need a bit more ball winning qualities, you can bring Grant in, or you can bring Devlin in if you need ball winning qualities. It just gives you those options off the bench. But I do see, and they're looking at St Johnstone and what the threats they're going to pose. I do see them lining up in a similar way to Livingston and Motherwell, with the back three or a back five. But although I don't think they will be as defensive as Livingston were, I don't think anyone's going to be as.
Are you sure that this is a Craig Levein team we're talking about?
I know. This is a good point, because I watched. It is something that Hearts will face is a team that sits deep. I watched them against Motherwell. They in Levein's first game, and they were decent. But they let a 2-goal leads slip, kind of fell out of it, and then watched a bit of them against Ross County, and their setup was so very clear. It was basically 5-2-3, and you see that in the average possessions, but the fact that Ross County, they allowed Ross County to have like 54% of the ball. That's Ross County, and that was at home against Ross County. So you're thinking you can add 10-15% of possession on against Hearts. The big thing with St Johnstone, their turnaround, as well as the party company with former Hearts striker Stephen McLean. Alec Clelling got a 2-0 win I think it was 2-0 in his first, in his only game as interim boss. And then Levein and Andy Kirk have picked up 4 points from their 2 games. So they have risen off the bottom of the table. However, a big part of that, as well as the change of manager, was the return of Nicky Clark. And he is a very, very good, I think he's a very good striker. He was a partner with Lawrence Shankland when they were both at Dundee United. A very clever striker. He leads the line really well, and he can drop in, and he uses his body very well. However, he's going to miss it, which is a massive boost for Hearts. So then you've got probably Stevie May up front with Chris Kane and with Graham Carey playing around there as well. And then it's quite other than that, it's relatively familiar St Johnstone side with a couple of new players. But yeah, I think Hearts fans should expect a St Johnstone side who will be well organised, structured, will allow Hearts to have the ball, and there will be, once again, I think the buzzword for this season is patience.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right. I think that, without spilling the beans, I think that's what you touch on quite a fair bit in your opinion piece that's going to be coming out tomorrow, is that word patience. I think that's what's needed, and that means you have patience within the 90 minutes of a game, and that means patience over the next 4, 5, 6 games as well. But yeah, I think you make a really good point about Nicky Clark. He's always been a goal scorer. I think he's a lot of his career has been playing in like the Championship and things like that, but he's always done well. He's always been a good player. And you're right, his return has been a big part of St Johnstone's turnaround as well, because let's face it, Stevie May, Chris Kane, these are guys they're decent players and they'll work hard, but neither of them are exactly even 10 goals a season strikers, So I think having an actual goal scorer back in their team, that's definitely helped with St Johnstone kind of getting their act together. But as you say, with him missing for Saturday's match, that's actually, again, it just blunts St Johnstone that little bit more. I don't think they're going to get many chances anyway, but now they're in a position where even when they do get chances, would you put your mortgage on Stevie May putting a 1-on-1 away, for instance? Like, I know I'm tempting fate now, obviously, but yeah, I just think that I don't think neither Kane nor May are the most kind of prolific goal scorers, and they kind of pop up every now and then. But again, that'd be my big thing. I don't think that, again, tempting fate, but I don't think that St Johnstone have much of an attacking threat. I'm just not convinced. You look at them, I think they've got guys who work hard and guys who run around, but I don't think they've got anyone who's good at regularly putting the ball in the net. And I think as well, you look at it and it's like a lot of those players are getting on a bit as well. There's absolutely there's not very much pace in that team. They're not the kind of team that are going to strike you on the counter at lightning pace.
They're not going to turn you, and they're not going to pose that threat. And I suppose Graham Carey, very good left foot, but he's the other side of his game's not the greatest in terms of off the ball, but he's got a very good left foot. So set pieces, and they've got a big side, but they've, like I said, it's probably one-dimensional in terms of that mobility and pace, that they don't have someone that just can go from can just take the ball and just run at defence or run in behind. Everything's kind of 2 feet. You got James Brown as a right wing back. He's more of a right back. They've got I think it's Luke Robinson, lone player on the left, and Matt Smith, Welsh international in midfield, who looks really tidy, but nothing that. Again, I'm just reading Craig Rankin's comment there. Stephen May, first goal scorer. James called it. So again, I'm about to say something that, which is tempting fate, is that there's nothing within St Johnstone that should fear or scare Hearts at all. My biggest worry is the man who's standing on the dugout, because it's Craig Levein coming back, and it's a fascinating narrative because, and it'd be really interesting to, like Scarfs Around the Funnel may have tweeted this out and asked fans. I didn't look at the replies yet, but it'd be interesting to see what reaction Craig Levein gets, because he's a club legend. He was recognised one of the club's best defenders over the last in the last 40 to 50 years. His first spell as manager was incredible, and it's something I'm currently working on just now. A big feature on that time when he led us to back-to-back third places while slashing the budget. And if you look at the team that they put across those kind of 2 seasons, there wasn't a lot of money spent, and it was a very kind of Scottish-based core and team, and it was, the results in Europe, the home form was absolutely brilliant. So sometimes I think that can get lost within his second spell, and then there's also the fact that what came after his that back-to-back third places was Romanov, so it kind of can get lost in amongst it. But I just think it's one of the most underrated periods in this century in Scottish football, and he deserves so much respect for that. And also when he came back the second time, he had a massive part in helping rebuild and reshape the club and direct it towards kind of growth from the Championship at the Premiership and Europe. He was a key figure. I know there was a lot of question marks about his influence as director of football, but I just think that was suspicion or mistrust of the actual position itself rather than Levein. And yes, it very much soured towards the end, and the right decision was to sack him, because I think remove him. And I think he's said as well, he's admitted in his when he got announced, was the fact that he'd taken on too much, and he was director of football, he was a board member, he was manager. It was just too much, and I think everyone from outside could see him at Hearts waited, probably gave him more time than was necessary. But he is a fantastic appointment for St Johnstone, because you've got Andy Kirk, who I've spoken to guys who have worked with him in the academy or played under him, and with others who have maybe come across him in football, and he's got a really high reputation as a coach, so he does a lot of the coaching. Levein's kind of this, he is like an old school manager, oversees everything, and he is exactly what St Johnstone need, and given something like he can provide a structure and help build the footballing side of things, which is completely missing from St Johnstone. So yeah, I've just got big. He just gives me big Vince McMahon vibes coming back to Tynecastle to bring wrestling into it.
Yeah, no, I mean it'll be interesting no matter what. I mean, we know that as well, particularly in his later years, Craig Levein's just become a bit of a wind-up merchant. You know, he likes just kind of getting under people's skin and winding them up. He's
very funny. He's very
he's
funny.
a funny man, and I wonder if that will extend to Stephen Naismith as well on Saturday. I wonder if on the touchline there might be a wee bit of back and forth, a little bit of, because we know what Craig Levein's like. You know, he likes to noise people up, and he's good at it as well. In terms of the reception he gets,
and it should be noticed that he signed Naismith as well for Hearts.
Oh, of course, yeah, there you are. Yeah, that's a nice wee touch. So yeah, I think that in terms of the reception, I'd be surprised if it was anything other than a pretty good one. I think that, like you say, yes, Levein, the second spell, it didn't end as anyone would have wanted. Again, as he said, since, I mean, I was listening to a podcast with him with Graham Spears recently, and again, he's saying that he was trying to do 2 jobs at once. It was just way too much. And, again, that's part of the reason why he brought in Andy Kirk with him to St Johnstone, is again, he didn't want to fall into those traps again of taking on too much. So again, you've got Kirk doing the kind of the majority of the coaching, and he's kind of there in a kind of taking a big picture kind of view of it all. But again, yes, okay, the second spell for Levein at Hearts did not end as anyone would have liked, but I'd like to think that now enough time has passed. I mean, when these things happen, always for 6 months, maybe even a year after, as people are still a bit annoyed about it and they're still upset. It's still raw. That's understandable. But the more time goes on, you kind of go, all right. I think there is a bit of sympathy there for the fact that he was basically trying to do 2 jobs at once, and that was an unfair position for. That was a position he shouldn't have been in the first place. So I think that's probably a thing. But I think overall, so yeah, you look at his record as a player, his first management spell, like you say, even in his second spell, his first spell, cutting the budget, getting those back-to-back third places. These are all things that, haven't happened very much this century for Hearts. I think that fans do recognise and respect that. So I think he'll get a warm reception, certainly at the start of the game. As for how it goes at full time, that'll probably depend on the result, I'd imagine. I'm sure if St Johnstone nick a point or nick a win, he'll be getting absolute dog's abuse, which is the way it should be.
Yeah, just Craig there. Water on the bridge with Levein. The good he's done far outweighs that final chapter, which is I think that's a really, really good point. Proper Hearts man. So yeah, that's I think Craig has he said it in basically 2 sentences what we've spoken for about 5 minutes about. So
yeah, that's far more eloquent than either of us. Yeah, so well done.
Yeah. But I think if there is going to be kind of booze, hopefully it's just nothing more than kind of pantomime. Stuff.
Yeah. Again, Levein's one of those guys. He understands that. He knows that. He's been around the game long enough that he knows that's part of it. And also, as we've kind of alluded to, that's kind of part of the game he seems to enjoy as well. We see him. Obviously, we think back of his press conferences back when he was at Hearts and Lennon was at Hibs, and they were just absolute box office every time because he's just got, that's a remarkable way to get under the skin of people. And then also Neil Lennon's the most easily upset man in the world, I suppose. It's made for great viewing. So again, I don't know if we'll quite see that again this time around, but it's certainly good to see him back in the league. And I hope he's got that cheeky wee glint in his eye when we're speaking to him after the game.
Yeah, hopefully speaking to him after seeing his Johnstone side lose, because it does kind of maybe finish on it and look ahead. And I'm going to put us both on the spot here. Wait till I get the Hearts fixtures up and look at the head between now and the winter break. So Hearts?
Kelly away's next. We know that
Kelly
much.
Away, home to Rangers, away to Aberdeen, away to Celtic, home to St Mirren, away to Hibs, home to Ross County, away to Livy. So that's between Saturday and the 2nd of January before the winter break. So 9 games. James, how many points do you predict?
Oh, now you're asking. Trying to think. So if I go for St Johnstone, yeah. I reckon about. I think 14 or 15 is doable. I do.
So I'm just thinking 3, 6, 9, 12. So I think
the games against Celtic and Rangers, they're like those are probably going to be defeats, I would imagine. The rest of them, there's points there to be gained. I think obviously the Derby and Pittodrie away are the other 2 really big ones there in there. But I would like to think, I think in the Derby, that could go either way, as we know. We've seen enough of them. We know what it's like. Aberdeen away, yes. Hearts have got that absolutely rubbish record up there, just as Aberdeen have got a rubbish record at Tynecastle. But Aberdeen, they're still not exactly firing on all cylinders at the moment. Obviously, they've still got was it 1 more game in Europe as well, or 2? 2, I think, actually. So they've still they still have that going on in the background. They still have to deal with that. The players might be a bit tired. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Pittodrie. The Derby, who knows? I think Celtic and Rangers, particularly against Celtic at the moment, it's hard to see a win. And then after that, I think that the rest of those games they're winnable. I don't think Hearts will win them all, but certainly look at them and you go, yeah, if Hearts could certainly win those.
I like Angus's confidence. I think he's going for like 19 points at least. With beat
Oh
everyone,
wow, right, okay,
and hopefully get a result in Aberdeen for a change. And I was looking at it. I think you look at St Johnstone, you look at the St Johnstone game, home at St Mirren, home at Ross County, away Livingston. We should be winning be looking at winning every single one of those. So that's 3, 6, 9, 12, and then you should be looking at winning at least one of Kelly, Aberdeen, and Hibs, and hopefully getting at least a point in the other two, and then maybe trying to get a result against Rangers at home. So I'd be wanting Hearts to definitely get. I'd probably, if on January the 2nd at 5 p.m. Hearts have got fewer than 15 points from this lot. I think that would be. I think I would see it as a disappointment. Craig suggested he'd be happy with 12 points. So, because I'm just thinking, so 3 from St Johnstone, Kelly, St Mirren, that's 9.
So Craig there, he's got a win over St Johnstone, a win over Hibs, and then a win away to Livy. Is that the last one?
Livy away, yeah.
Yeah. So see, that's where he's got his wins. He's got a few draws in there as well. Yeah, I mean, again, just nice to get some points on the board. Again, it's going to be a tricky run, but
so Craig's left out St Johnstone. I think he's left out St Johnstone.
Has he? Right. Okay.
So, but yeah, so I'm thinking you win St Johnstone, that's 3, St Mirren 6, Ross County 9, Livingston 12, and then so I'd be looking at the bare minimum 13, but ideally, really, Hearts should be looking at 15 plus.
Yeah, I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. I mean, it's not going to be easy.
No,
it's not. People aren't just going to hand you over points. But I think, 14, 15, something like that would be a pretty good return from. Again, as we're all saying, it's a difficult run of games. The Hearts will inevitably drop points in a few of them. That's just the reality of modern football. But I do think that it's certainly an opportunity, and it's one that could ultimately define the season for Hearts. If this next period goes well, Hearts could very well conceivably be in January, be in third place by the time January 2nd rolls around, and I think that's a bit of a cushion as well. At that point. Whereas if they have a terrible run here and they struggle to pick up points, they might be in the bottom half by then. So it can be quite definitive. I think this run of games.
Yeah, I think it will definitely obviously shape the season because you're playing so many games within such a condensed period of time, and I think not only being in third, but hopefully, like you said, having a cushion in third should be the aim, because you still got Aberdeen lack consistency. I think Hibs have got the squad depth, and Aberdeen's playing in Europe, and hopefully finally end that rubbish record, recent record in Pittodrie, and have that be in a nice position going into the winter break, and then ensure that when we come back from the winter break, we don't make a mess of finishing third for the second season in a row. We will leave it there. Thank you very much for everyone listening. Thank you very much for James for joining me to chat through and look ahead to Saturday's game. Like I said at the start, we won't be back on Friday just with one or two things, but we'll be back on Saturday with all the pre-match and post-match reaction from St Johnstone. But there will be stuff on the site coming up over like every day. We've got James's piece on Lauren Shankland and how he compares to Hearts strikers in the past. Goal records, definitely the second best goal record in this century, and how he compares to Hearts greats of the pilot kind of post Second World War. This afternoon we'll have a piece with the two Foundation of Hearts members who are standing for election for the Foundation of Hearts board, with ballots set to be launched on Monday, and then there will be a opinion piece tomorrow and a piece looking at Craig Levein's return to Hearts on Friday, plus some general stuff, any news that happens, to kind of look back at how Hearts players have got on during the international break, and then we'll have all the presser reaction with Stephen Naismith on Friday. So once again, thank you very much for everyone for subscribing. Thank you very much for everyone for listening. And this is, of course, available both on Spotify and iTunes and anywhere else where you get your podcasts, if you are someone who gets your podcasts from a weird player. But until then, thank you very much. Goodbye, and goodbye, James.